What's up guys, Matt back again, and this is the Ichiban Kuji Dragon Ball vs Omnibus Z, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the entire set.
Before we dive into the video, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell, like the video, comment your thoughts down below for us to discuss, follow me on my socials, and consider becoming a YouTube member to enter into our monthly giveaways and Discord server so our community can help you on your Dragon Ball figure collecting journey.
This Kuji begins with one of my favorite moments of the Tournament of Power arc, Goku and Frieza teaming up to defeat Jiren. The final episode of Dragon Ball Super was incredible as Universe 7 was on the brink of being defeated by Jiren, but thanks to Goku's trust in Frieza and 17, they were able to not only come out victorious, but wish all of the fallen universes back. These would also be some of our last Dragon Ball Super figures in Ichiban Kuji that weren't from a movie. I hope we can see more DBS figures in Masterlies sometime soon. These figures are also unique as they are bundled together within the same prize in this Kuji, so the value is already up from there. I do have some criticisms of both figures though. I think Goku's likeness is fantastic. He looks cut straight from the anime with his determined face, and I really love the shape of his hair being Super Saiyan, but since he was flickering in and out of the form, it's black to represent his base form. Frieza's likeness isn't quite as good as Goku's in my opinion. I don't think it's awful, but he doesn't quite capture his face just right. Both figures have really great sculpts with tons of detail along all of their muscles. Frieza is pretty cool since he includes his halo on his head since he was dead during the tournament, and even part of his tail is cut off from Jiren. I will point out that the lower body from Goku is definitely reusing the leg sculpt from Omnibus UI Goku and the UI Gokus from Ultimate Variation. Not a huge deal since it's only the lower body, but certainly something to note. Both figures have perfect paint and shading, which is really impressive on Frieza. Goku's hair has more of a glossy finish to it, but I believe that was done to represent it flickering in and out of Super Saiyan. Both of these Masterlies figures are very well sculpted to scale with the rest of a collection as well. I think these figures are really slept on as a great package. It's hard to beat a 2-in-1 prize, and it's an amazing moment recreated pretty successfully within Masterlies. Another Ichiban Kuji, another Super Saiyan Full Power Broly. I've said many times before that the DBS Broly movie really left an impact in the merchandising world. So many Ichiban Kuji included the character. I understand that he's popular and this iteration is objectively better than the original Broly in many ways, but it was exhausting to see Broly's King Cluster in almost every set. The figure seems based on the moment Broly is powering up against Gogeta, but it's not quite one-to-one. The community has dubbed this figure as the opera singer Broly since it kinda looks like he's singing. Jokes aside, I do think this is likely the best King Cluster Broly of his DBS iteration. His likeness is perfect. Broly's eyes and features have that perfect animated look to them. His face also came out great even though it's an open mouth sculpt, which can be hit or miss at times. Broly's hair is slightly changed from the previous King Clusters too, as his head is tilted back to let out his wild scream. The entire sculpt is highly detailed, but of course reuses the previous Broly sculpts in order to make it. The only difference is his head sculpt and arms. The paint and shading of the figure are the best out of all of the DBS Broly figures. They really made him saturated in his colors and strategically used shading to make certain areas pop everywhere on the figure. You can really see the difference between the colors in his green and purple areas between other Broly figures. The size of the figure is always something to behold, and he scales perfectly within Masterlies. Although this Broly is yet another DBS King Cluster, he's still the best DBS Broly figure for this form out there. Gogeta is back yet again in Ichiban Kuji. Much like Broly, Gogeta was everywhere and seemed to show up in nearly every Kuji release. I understand he's a popular character, but This was also the point where folks were getting pretty exhausted by his appearance. This was, however, our last scaled DBS Gogeta we would see in Masterlies, and I have to say that he's likely the best one. Gogeta is based on the moment he launches the Stardust Breaker at Broly during the movie. His likeness is perfect. Most Gogeta figures released in Masterlies seem to have a cocky or playful expression to them, but this one finally gave us a DBS Gogeta who meant business with a very serious expression. He just looks so good. The sculpt is very well done and pretty explosive with him throwing his move out. We clearly can see that a majority of the sculpt besides his arms and head have been recycled from the Ultimate Variation version of this character and form. Not a big deal, but we've seen it twice before already, so come on Bandai, let's get creative instead. The paint and shading on the figure are also splendidly applied to the figure, finally giving this magnificent sculpt's hair some white tips to make his hair pop. He's got shading all over the rest of his sculpt, like his sash, pants, shoes, jacket, and skin. The figure does have the same wide pose as the last two Gogetas, so keep in mind that he may take up some extra space due to that, but he does scale perfectly with all other Masterlies figures. What more can I say about this guy? Yes, it's another Gogeta. Yes, it's the same body sculpt for the most part as the last couple of guys, but he's still the best DBS Gogeta to scale within Masterlies, and one of my absolute favorites. Before DBS Broly, we knew Broly as a sadistic, evil Saiyan who would go out of his way to destroy all in his path while he tried to fulfill his death wish against Kakarot. Well, we finally had this famous iteration of Broly added to the King Cluster lineup. Broly is based on the iconic moment when he launches his Omega Blaster to finish off Gohan, Goten, and Trunks in the DBZ movie Broly's Second Coming. Broly's likeness is incredible. He looks as though he's been ripped straight from the film. I will say that it's a shame they didn't include any of the battle damage or scarring from the Second Coming movie, but I guess you can just say that the pose is from that film, but the design of the figure is from the first movie. His hair is really well sculpted too, with high detail in the texturing of all the strands. Broly has amazing paint and shading from top to bottom too. His hair has mixtures of greens, light yellows, and whites, while the rest of his body has traditional shading, even on his clothes. His cloth over his pants seems a bit lighter in color than I remember, but I think the color grading in those films always intended it to be a brighter color, but the older film grading made it look more red. He also has all of his gold parts finished with a metallic and glossy finish to contrast well with all of the rest of his paint. Broly is huge as he is a King Cluster figure and really feels like a high quality statue. He's heavy as hell and it really drives home the feeling of his legendary status. This Broly is as perfect as you can get when it comes to his figures. Not only is he my personal favorite from this set, but he's the best Broly figure out of any that are out there, hands down. Moving on to our next prize, we have to remember that Bandai was still in an awkward phase of making figures not completely based on the manga or anime. It also felt as though they felt like if they didn't include Goku in their Kuji that it could possibly fail. We all know now that it's not true, and it seems like Bandai has learned that lesson to a certain degree. This Goku falls into a strange category as he was meant to be paired with the Z Broly in this set to emulate their battle from the very first Broly film. However, Goku doesn't really seem to take any likeness from that source. He's clearly just a color swap for the Goku in Prize A. Frankly, he works a lot better as a DBS Goku figure since Goku was flickering in and out of that form during the sequence. However, it could have just been an E-moving in that case. I can't even completely argue that this figure could be a choice for those that prefer it over the base form in Prize A, because the Prize A version is the only one that comes with Frieza. This version comes on his own, so it really does make him feel like the lesser version. All of his qualities outside of that weird conversation is the same as Prize A. He's got a good likeness, sculpt, scaling, paint, and shading. His hair probably has the biggest difference since it's painted traditionally and has uses of shading in it to make the tips white while mixing in different yellows. He's nothing special at all, but has no glaring issues to make him a bad figure whatsoever. He's just somewhat forgettable, especially against all of the other Super Saiyan Goku figures we already have. We have a pretty surprising inclusion in this absolutely packed Kuji with Little Green himself, the Kami of Earth before he was our god, Dende. Dende was a character who came in clutch during the Namek arc by not only being the one who was able to summon Porunga for our friends, but also healed our fighters while they fought Frieza to the brink of death over and over again. This is our first and only Masterlies of Dende, and that even included the Namek Dragon Balls along with him. I think a character like Dende this small really should have been included with our last one prize, which we'll talk about later. Him being his own prize just feels like a cop-out and way to sell extra Kuji tickets at the Japanese lotteries. Also, of course, to sell more Ichibancho figures of his release. Regardless of that, I'm happy to see Dende here. His likeness is great. He's got that same expression he had while frantically summoning Porunga and being absolutely surprised and taken aback from his size and glory. Dende's sculpt is pretty simple in its design, with a lot of the details being in his clothes. The Dragon Balls he comes with are very strange. On one hand, when holding them, they feel like they're made with quality materials, but they're hollow with a very clear and obvious deviating line separating both sides of each of them. It really makes them look cheap, especially when compared to the Dragon Ball in Goku's hand for one of the other prizes in this set alone. Dende has shading all throughout with subtle uses on his skin and clothes. He's also small but perfectly scaled with my Masterlies collection. I love Dende and his inclusion, but do wish he came as a bonus with another character in here, or at the very least had better quality Dragon Balls along with him. Now this figure is really special. Bandai was including Goku figures in Ichiban Kuji every May for their Kakarot collection to commemorate Goku Day. Unfortunately, they only did it in 2020 and 2021 for Ultimate Variation and Omnibus Z respectively. This figure was their last and most notable Kakarot collection figure, being Goku in his casual outfit before the Cell games began. I'm not sure if there's a direct source for this figure, but if you know, please let me know in the comments. This is our only Masterlies of this Goku in this outfit, which makes him even more special. His likeness is so dang good. He has that innocent expression of Goku's face and looks so excited. It really drives home how he was able to control his emotions in the mastered form of Super Saiyan. His hair is sculpted perfectly and gives him that fluffy look that I love seeing. There is a bit of texturing to add detail, but the whitish yellow of the hair drives home that old school look for Super Saiyan hair that I wish we saw more often in figures. The rest of the sculpt is great too. He's got lots of details around his jacket, pants, and shoes with lots of texturing for added dimension. As I stated earlier during Dende's review, Goku has a 4-star Dragon Ball in his hand that is sculpted perfectly as well. It's translucent but filled whole with a nice shine to it, so it actually looks like a real Dragon Ball. His paint and shading are on point too. I've already talked about his hair, but he's got bright colors all over and shading on his clothes. His shoes are also a glossy color, so they look like actual polished shoes. The figure, of course, scales well with other Masterlies figures. I think this Goku figure in his appearance alone speaks for itself. He's one of the greatest Goku figures ever made, and a must-have for all collectors. This absolutely packed Ichiban Kuji drives home its legendary status by bringing Porunga as our last one prize. Porunga was the original Super Shenron, as said in the show, since he was a dragon who was far bigger than Shenron and could grant 3 wishes instead of just 1. I know a lot has changed since then, but Porunga has and always will be awesome. We got Shenron the year before this release, so it was amazing to see another dragon so soon. Porunga is based on his appearance before Dende, Krillin, and Gohan during the Frieza arc. Porunga's likeness is perfect. I've talked about Irakura Keiji before and how polarizing his figures can be, like the Omnibus Brave Piccolo or the Back to the Film Broly, but when he does these dragon figures, he just does not miss. Porunga looks great in the face with plenty of features like his snarling mouth and red eyes. The entire sculpt is a masterpiece. He has warts and textures all over his body. His horns are really well done in place, and of course, he has a detailed fin on his back. Porunga has some masterful paint and shading too. I love how the yellowish white of his front fades and mixes into the greens of his body. It makes him look real. The figure is huge and heavy. So heavy, sometimes I wonder if he's gonna break my shelf down. Of course, he isn't as big as he is in the show, but he's big enough to note within a collection. It's hard not to notice something like him on my shelf. I mentioned Broly being my personal favorite in this set, but objectively, Porunga is the best figure you can get in this set, and one of the best last one prizes of all time. He's the most expensive dragon to buy in the secondhand market, but be careful as there are a lot of bootlegs. If the price is too good to be true, he's probably a fake. But if you do end up coughing up the cash to buy this amazing piece, then congrats. He's a purchase you won't soon regret. So those are my thoughts on Ichiban Kuji Dragon Ball vs. Omnibus Z. I think this set really does speak for itself. It has some amazing inclusions in here, really only a couple of low points, and they're arguably low points. This definitely has to be one of the greatest Ichiban Kuji of all time. But those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you made it this far in the video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to go even further beyond in supporting the channel, then please consider becoming a YouTube member. Starting at our $3 tier, you get access to our Discord server full of awesome people and a growing community of collectors and Dragon Ball fans just like you. We also do games, watch parties, lots of fun stuff on there. And of course, if you want to take part in our regular monthly giveaway, we have $10, $15, and $20 tiers for Crane figure winners, Ichiban Kuji winners, and Ichiban Kuji set winners, respectively. So if you want to take part in that, go ahead and take a look at that. But I think that's all I got for you guys today. So until the next video, I will see you all later.